Good morning, welcome back. We're going to do a walk around video and show off the yard, the garden, the orchard we've got going. Some things you haven't seen before. It's June 22nd, a couple days after the solstice, and we want to show you all the updates. So we've pulled all the poppies and saved all their seeds. We've moved that mulberry that was there, and we've got it in here with a bunch of air layers going on it. Hopefully to reproduce this. These are an air layer. It's a bag of moist soil wrapped around the branch that we scratched the branch, applied some rooting hormone, and then it will root into that bag of soil, and we can cut that branch off and make a whole new tree. And this is that real productive Thai dwarf mulberry, aka world's best. A little bit of the results from my in-water air layer. Those three that had roots are doing great. Let's see, we've got some more. We've got all sorts of propagation going on in the porch just for fun. Some hybrid willow, some other figs. Here I've got a graft that I'm attempting. A graft is just joining two types of tree together by cutting one off of that you want and mating it to the branch of the other one. I've got some hybrid poplar going back there. Let's see, this is some sweet potato slips going just from another sweet potato. Come on, I'll take you on out here into the garden, and we'll make our way up to the back 60 and two new gardens that we've made up there. And I'll show that off a little bit. This is the latest thing we had done. In that last video, I showed off this swell where we planted a fig, a mulberry, a chestnut, a fig, a mulberry, a chestnut, and then we've got some peas planted in between. And this will evolve where we put more nitrogen fixers, the support trees like mimosas and locusts and redbud trees. We'll be evolving it. Adding to it, cutting things out. It's just going to be a beautiful row of trees here soon as things just grow at different heights and different rates. Really looking forward to that growing up. We're going to do something very similar to it a couple over that away. So as the rain goes downhill, it'll catch in this little swell, water those trees, and slow the water down on its way to the pond. We'll go over here to like another little tree nursery area that I've got going on, and I've shown it in the videos before. It's got chestnut trees and pawpaw seeds. And pawpaw, if you're not familiar, is it's native to North Carolina and a lot of the East Coast. It's tropical fruit that's got the consistency of a banana, and grows to a full-size tree. It's a beautiful tree, and it's a delicious fruit. So, and I've got about 5 or 6 or 7 varieties of them in these pots here. Keep looking, and I'm going to show you one that's actually germinated and coming up. Let's see. Here's one here that's doing good. You see this? This is the seedling starting to emerge here in the middle of June, and there's several more. There's one right there starting to come up. Okay, and there's a bunch of them. So that, and then these are more chestnuts that need to get planted out in ground. These are more chestnuts, and remember I had this table full, so that gives you an idea of how many I've planted here or that have died. Some of them have died just from, these few died just this past week from not getting enough water. But other than that, most of these have gotten planted out here in the yard. This garden, for an update, was what we're calling the less watered. We're attempting to grow in the wood chips that are pretty fresh wood chips from a year ago, where we raked it back, added some compost in a little row, and then pulled the wood chips back over top of it and didn't water them at all after they popped up and sprouted. And as you can see, it's not very successful. the corn came up, but other people in our area are getting full-size ears of corn on today, full-size sweet corn, middle of June. So we're behind. We have to figure out a better method. I believe it's more water. I think these things need water. But you can see mixed in here are rows of fig trees. Okay, so if anything, these are just going to act as support species, getting in there, intertwined with the, just growing roots in this area is going to be good. Look at this, how this sumac tree is growing here beside our crop, which is our plum tree. In particular, this is a Stanley prune plum tree. So, and it's got a couple of plums on it, you can see here, which isn't like the best bet, being only it's his second year in ground. But we're gonna let him ride out and see if we can actually eat one. But see, this little tree is gonna act as a support tree, growing. It'll eventually be making more shade in this area. It'll be growing like roots in the ground for it, and it all helps with the microbial and soil conditions for the trees. Let's see. And so we've got all of our fig trees in this plot right here. I believe there's 40. They all came back minus one of the trees. Okay, then in the back you can see a couple Bartlett pears there, and then there's chestnut trees, large chestnut trees planted all the way down. And we'll come back through this area so we can go on the other side of the bulldozer and show you what it looks like heading that way. But for now, what we're going to do is go onto the driveway and go up the driveway and look at the back 60 and look at both sides of the back 60, where we put in these. I borrowed my tiller back from my little brother and tilled in a couple of beds just to break the ground so we can use this area. And if you look ahead, there's 4 rows that we tilled and then mulched. Let's walk over there to the fence. And we put up a little bit of deer fencing, not much yet. But in these beds, if you look down, there's sweet potatoes that we planted, there's black-eyed peas that we planted, and there's a climbing bean that we planted that'll climb up on the fence. Then we also put in some corn. We're not watering this at all, so we don't have high hopes for all of these things. I mean, they may or may not grow great, but this is just the first year. We wanted to get these rows established, not necessarily these crops. Like, these were just cheap and leftover seeds and plants that we had that we were just very ambitious about, and decided to do this plot. And we've got a whole nother plot over here on the other side. So now you're looking at the back 60. We've got a whole nother plot just like this on the other side of the back 60 we'll walk over and look at. So I keep saying the back 60, that's this back plot that we made with 60 fig trees in it of all different varieties. And I've got a video where I walk through and tell you the names of each variety, but you can see them going down. There's 6 rows this way, so there's 10 plants going this way. You can kind of see the flags that delineates each fig tree, but not all of them are flagged. Let's see. These trees have not been watered since they were put in. And they were put in probably 2 months ago into extremely dry conditions. And we've had a couple of rains since then, but it's been extremely dry. They've got mulch piled around them, wood chip mulch, and they are just hanging on and living. That's the situation right now. So this is the other back garden plot that we've done the same exact thing. We came in here, tilled this ground, and mulched it with rye straw that wasn't sprayed rye straw that we found. $6 a bale. There's some extra bales over there. Shook it out on top, and then we planted black-eyed peas, sweet potatoes, and some sweet corn, and we're not watering it at all. Now, at that time, we assumed that we would get some rain, but we haven't had any rain. So we did stretch the water hose over here, and we might have watered it one day, like just sprinkled watered everything one day, but we've decided we're not watering this. It's not going to be irrigated this year, right now. I don't know, but things may change. We may run some drip tape out here or something. I don't know yet. But it's too far from the house and the pump to look at every single day and to be watering it and worrying about it. We're just going to let these plants just break ground, live in this spot for now, and then we'll decide what we're going to do with these rows. We might just plant fig trees in them. We don't know yet. Okay, so we're going to go back around this way, and I'll show you the other side of the bulldozer, and then we're going to make our way down to the garden, which is our veggie garden that's close to the house that we actually play in every day and water and tend to, and are actually getting a harvest out of pretty much every day since, you know, the first week after we planted it. We started pulling little seedlings, thinning them. Here's some chestnut trees that I planted along here also. So this is going to be a pond right here. I'm digging it out right now. This is going to catch all the water coming down, hopefully from the driveway, fill this up, and then it carries on and heads on down the driveway once it's full. And then it'll dry up during dry periods, but it'll hold water a whole lot longer throughout, you know, throughout the drought time. And I might wind up filling it with mulch, or, you know, a layer of mulch once it's full, or once it's dug out to the right depth. But we'll see. That's kind of my idea right now. So let's see. All right, we're gonna head up here past the bulldozer. You're gonna see all the fig trees that we planted, the very first planting of fig trees that we did. With this group, it makes 125 fig trees. So, and I think there's 40 here, so, you know, 80 something, 85, right? So, and what we're doing is we're leaving the native persimmons that pop up, and we did do a row of plums down here and a persimmon tree, but we're leaving the ferns now that are coming back up through the mulch. We're leaving like the oak trees, persimmon trees, sassafras tree over here. These are the fig trees, looking very nice, growing interspace. Here's like some wild blackberries that we're leaving, the wild sumac bushes we're leaving, these different bracken ferns. I said the sassafras tree. We're covering the grasses up with more mulch, but we're leaving a lot of the other trees, so it kind of turns into a forest type. But we can come through and manage it, just cut down whatever weeds or trees that are acting like weeds at any time we don't want. As far as the other persimmon trees that are growing in here, we can graft a branch of a desirable persimmon tree onto this whole trunk of this persimmon tree whenever we feel like it, whenever they get big enough. So here we go, we're coming on down, another fig tree. You know, you can see all the fig trees. There's a grapevine right at your feet right there. A muscadine grape that's just popped up and we're gonna let grow till we don't want it here anymore, then we'll cut it out. Or it might start producing and we leave it. But for now, I would rather it be a jungle type than a desert type with all these little green trees growing in rows. Okay, I want to just make this into a more of the woods with our fruit trees growing in it than just straight rows of just trees. It just seems like everything grows better that way. It's more pleasurable to be walking around in it when it's like this, more of a jungle type, than just seeing just little green sticks sticking out of the ground. You want to see some figs? Here we are, we've got some figs all over this tree. There's figs all over this one, and then right over here. This tree's loaded down with figs. We'll be getting a crop off of these two little trees. You know, a personal crop. These trees aren't mature enough to reach production, but soon come. Let's see, there's more figs on this tree. We've got a lot. We only had a couple that came back like this and have mutated and sent out a few little things like this. They didn't make it. That's not going to make it through the summer or into next year. I don't think so, unless it shoots some sort of, I might cover that with soil and see if it sends up a shoot. We'll see. But we're not counting on that at all. Let's see, I've been putting mulch up on the berm, hoping to encourage more trees to grow along this whole berm. and we're throwing all sorts of tree seeds, weed seeds up on that berm, hopefully to make it just flourish and grow one day into a mountain type jungle. Let's turn back and pan this way. We'll see. So I showed you the fig, mulberry, chestnut, fig, mulberry. Now we're on the upper part where we did the same thing. Rows of fig, mulberry, chestnut that go along like this. And we might come back between us and that one and do another row of that. Or another row of something. We have plenty. You can kind of start to see the back garden where we've got a deer fence that we put up that's 8 feet tall. And we'll walk all the way around and we'll come back to the back side of it. So let's keep going. So over here in this area, so where we started at the bulldozer and walked this way, there's a slight slope that comes all the way down. And I dug in a pond. You can kind of see it here. It's kind of a swell, kind of a pond, like a long level pond ditch kind of thing. That it kind of stops all the water here for a little while in a big rain, and then it heads out and goes down a little trail over there into the next one. And in this yesterday, I mean, it's been drought-like conditions. It was dry appearing until I started digging out some more because I wanted to make it bigger. Little tiny frogs and a giant red salamander that's endemic here to North Carolina and the East Coast, living in this wet mulch, like what used to be clay, hard clay, but now it's kind of like moist soil. So it's going to make a whole ecosystem here. That water will seep into the ground, go down, seep, and continue down on its way to our main pond, but just make this environment a whole lot moister than this dry pines woodland that we're used to here in the Sandhills of North Carolina. That's my hope. I want this to be more of a lush jungle. If you've ever been to the Piedmont of North Carolina, or a lot of you are lucky to live in a little more moist environments, but here we turn into an arid environment whenever you have pine and turkey oak scrublands like this, where that's what we're used to here in the Sandhills. But we can transform this into a moist, lush environment if we just manage the water right when we get these big rain events. So, all right, come on this way. This is where the end of the figs, the 125 figs, if you look back past the bulldozer, there's 125 planted up here on this right side between us and the berm. And then on the left side, there's a nice big driveway between us and the pond, and then that row of fig trees, fig, chestnut, mulberry. And in that'll be our road through here that goes kind of right where you're standing. We come right through here. We got kind of a road. We do have a road that brings you to the back part over here. Some of my chestnut trees that I planted, the squirrels did not get, so I've got chestnut seedlings that are planted, living in full drought condition, and they are doing fine. There's another one right here behind you that I sprinkled some mulch on yesterday. These are from seed chestnut, and they will be growing up here. They're going to make it through this summer. They'll be just fine. So we're going to come on around this way. This area in here is going to need a lot of work. I don't know how I'm going to dig ponds into here, but I will be to catch the water, slow it down, make those berms, make the swell to hold the water, and plant, mimosas, locust trees, redbud trees, and then any sort of fruit trees that we've got. Mulberries, figs, these chestnut trees, blueberry bushes. We started planting blueberry bushes in here because they're loving this dry pine environment. But we need a whole bunch more of this type of cash crop, basically. Blueberries, things we can harvest, save up for ourselves. Not every single one of them looks like it's gonna fruit this year, but some of them out of all of them will, and so we'll be able to get a harvest still off of them. So this is another pond down here at the bottom that'll be kind of like catching. It's kind of my shooting range, but also be a pond and when it's wet, or when we get a big rain. Right now it's dry and hard as a rock. So that's the idea, is make these series of little ponds. So when we do get a lot of rain, every one of them will be full, and then they'll slowly dry up throughout, you know, these drought times. Okay, so here we are at the back gate of the garden. You can see the back door of the house, the back door of the apartment. You can see all these little trees in here that I'm letting live, and it's growing up into like that same jungle back there. Where you can see a mimosa, you can see maple trees, sumac trees, oak trees, persimmon trees, locust trees, poached salad bush, briars, dog fennel growing up. Amongst the pine trees that are, you know, growing as like these big, what we would call like nurse trees right now, because they're shading everything. Give them a chance to grow in this, you know, super hot summertime, but they get a little bit of shade, so that's great. So we're gonna grow this up as a jungle back here on the outside of the fence. Let's go through the gate that we put in. This super nice gate that we put up. Wesley and Jessica helped me with this gate. We got this whole thing installed properly. We still want to put a little bit of wire down here across the bottom to keep any really adventurous deer out, and block in some little spots. You know, there's still more work to do on it, but so this right here is a another one of those. Well, this one here is more of a drainage ditch that takes the water off this way. But it's got persimmons and then a bunch of other bushes that we've planted in here that'll act as a screen. Behind you, back here on the back, we've got a, I've got this here because I'm trying to remind myself to dig this wisteria vine out of here. But like right here on the ground, this is a mimosa that I'd run over several times, and it's growing back, and I believe it's gonna now get a chance to live here because I'm done with the earthwork back here. This locust tree clump is gonna live here. This little swell right here, so this will be a good example for a swell here. It's just a small little level ditch that'll catch the water as it comes in, and then it'll overflow somewhere if it rains too much, but most of the water is just going to seep into the ground as it sits there. And being that this one's mostly sand, it'll seep real fast. Those up there that are the ponds are more like the clay bottom that was just there. But if you look, I mean, there's weeds starting to grow on it already. There's mimosa tree seedlings that were just, I'm sure this soil out here is full of mimosa and locust seeds from years back, and they're just going to start germinating now that I'm messing with the soil. Briars. There is some grass that I don't want, and I still have to mulch all of this with wood chip mulch. So that'll kill back like the nutsedge and just some of these running grasses that are out here. But then you got like this type. So in this little spot though, we're gonna plant a mulberry tree, a fig tree, a chestnut tree in this area also, several of them, and they'll be growing up with these weedy type trees that'll be acting as the nurse and support trees, shading, breaking the ground, adding the organic matter back to the ground with their leaves and branches as they get fall or get chopped down. So it'll be a good little nook right here. And then looking back at the house, what we're thinking about doing basically rows of little forest rows with big walkways between them. We'll try to recreate little forest rows all the way down. But here's the back gate. Let's see. Man, there's so much I want to show you. Look through the wire right here. You can see that brown row that we've put back there past the soccer ball. That's all of that forest soil that I had dumped, this stuff right here, that we've got pawpaws planted in that too every couple feet, and they should be germinating. I haven't checked. Heading this way, let's see. Oh, there's so much I want to show you. This is our garden that got devastated by deer. That's why we have the fence. So all of these squash plants, watermelon plants got eaten down. All these pots had something growing in them, but all of these are like 30-something fig trees growing right here in pots. They're all looking good. We've got this Tromboncino seedlings and sunflower seedlings planted along the fence. We just did that like last week, and they're looking good. This is our little flower beds that we built up here on the deck. Jessica started all this stuff from seeds, and they are all jamming and looking good. We've got this Celtis, basil, red lettuce, cilantro, more basil, and a perennial spinach or perpetual spinach, which is like a kind of a Swiss chard. We're munching down those leaves. Let's see. We had started eating on the beet greens, but the deer got in here and ate every bit of that. Ate all the peas, or the bean leaves. This is her other flower bed on this side with zinnias, coxcomb, or amaranth, or celosia, whatever you want to call it. I believe this one's called tick seed. A bunch of wildflowers down in there. Some, oh, what are they? Not peonies, but dahlias from a friend of ours that grew these from seed that he saved from his dahlias. So they're going to be a hybrid. Something nobody's ever seen before, so that'll be neat to see those flowers for the first time. They'll be a perennial. They'll come back every year in that same spot. Our carrots are looking good. We've pulled a couple little bitty ones. Wesley and I did. We pulled a couple little carrots out and ate those, but they're not quite big enough yet. That's the trommel that we're making all that potting soil with out of that forest soil. We're just turning it on and it sifts out all the chunks. Here's some more fig trees I've got over here in pots from the year before. And they've got, like this one here, this one's called Tacoma Violet. This sucker's putting on a fig at every leaf node. Look at this. Every one of them's loading up with figs. These will be getting ready soon. So all of these fig trees have different figs in different states, you know, different amounts. Let's see, those tomatoes in that terracotta pot are putting off tomatoes for us. This tomato plant right here has been putting off tons of these purple tomatoes, which are those GMO purple tomatoes. They're doing great. Our bell peppers, look at all these bell peppers. Loading up with bell peppers. Every plant's just loaded with bell peppers. Our watermelons, look at that, growing good. Another kind of bean, a vine and bean, covered in blooms. More bell peppers. Let's see, this is a little cotton plant that Wesley and I stopped on the side of the road, and I planted a couple of the cotton seeds that were in a little cotton pod. Look how pretty these flowers are. Isn't that beautiful? That's the flower, and look at this. That's just the calyx of the bract that goes around the flower. More tomatoes. We got 4 tomatoes planted in this spot right here, and we've got so many tomatoes on the windowsill. It's just incredible. We found a few of the tomato hornworms. I've been pouring my coffee grounds on the plant since then and pulling the tomato hornworms off and feeding them to the dog, and he eats them like a little snack. This is that Gabonese sorrel, which we're about to start eating this, just as a green. You'll find that on Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, and actually a recipe on there as well. There's another one of the purple tomatoes. Kale that we've been feeding the rabbit. We made some kale chips and used it for a sandwich once. More zinnias right up here that Jessica's got, and this is where we started the video, but we went up that way, and we're about to end it here in just a minute. More kale and onions, and these onions are about to be ready, I believe. This is the Traveler's tomatoes, and we've been pulling these off daily for probably 2 weeks now. And another one, another Traveler tomato. Restarts of zinnia seeds and some other zinnias or other flowers, or those are actually like a tatsoi. Let's see, let's keep going just for a minute. These are ice cream bean seedlings. They're all doing good. I don't know if there'll be a perennial here in zone A/8B North Carolina, but we'll see. They're another support tree that we'll be planting out, and you get a harvest off of them, of the ice cream bean. And let's see, and the bunny rabbit. You can come take a look at her. She's doing good. She's been eating either kale leaves or branches off of the mimosa tree. We've given her a little bit of willow branches. That's our goal. We're going to find all the branches and other support trees and crop trees that we've got growing around here that we can feed her branches, and we can also save up the branches, dry them out in the tool shed. For wintertime, we can be feeding her those branches instead of feeding her these pellets, which is a pretty cool idea. Yeah, so that's going to be the end of the video for now. You've seen the whole garden pretty much. You didn't see the front yard or inside the house, but that's going to be our summer solstice update. All right, take care. Bye.